section 6.5, all we're doing is taking our word problems from 6.3, 6.4 and giving them a meaning, okay? So we'll be talking about discounts, we'll be talking about promotions, anything like that, all right? So we're going to solve them both ways, and so that way you can feel comfortable with what method. So let's look at this first one. It says 15% of Carol's check of $1,800 is paid towards health care, okay? So let's do it the equation way. What do we have to do with 15%? So it's going to be 0.15 of 1,800, so of means multiply, right? Of 1,800 is going to healthcare. Do we know how much? No, okay? So what you're going to notice is once we realize what 15% of her paycheck of 1,800 is, we'll know how much of it's going to her healthcare, all right? Whenever your X is already isolated, you just have to do the math. 0.15 times 1,800. What do you guys get? And then since it's a word problem, it has a unit. And so what's the unit? Dollars. So it means if she is really making $1,800 a paycheck, $270 of that paycheck is going to health care. No, not but it's per paycheck though, so it's $540 a month. I guess that's still not bad. We were paying $800 to $1,000, yeah. Let's look at the next way we can do it, the proportions way. Remember, it's blank equals blank over 100. What do we do with the 15%? Where does he go? Over the 100. Amount over base, or is over of. We have the 1,800, so he's going to go down here. We don't know what amount of that 1,800 is going to her paycheck, so that's the unknown that goes up top, okay? We're going to cross multiply to get 100A. And then we're going to cross multiply 15 times 1,800. I got 27,000. Is that right? And then what do we still need to do to get that amount by itself? Divide by 100. So you'll have A equals $270. And does it make sense that we're solving for the amount? Yeah, amount is a small chunk, base is the whole. So her paycheck's the whole, and we want a small amount of that base, all right? Let's look at B. During a recent inspection, the fire department found 112 faulty smoke alarms. If this is 0.08% of the total inspected, how many total smoke alarms were inspected, okay? So let's do our equation first again. We have 0.08%, all right? So what do we still have to do to that? Divide it by 100, okay? So you get 0.0008 of the total inspected. Do we know the total inspected? Nope, but of means multiply. What was that? What was 0.08% of the total inspected was 112. If this is 0.08% of the total inspected, how many were totally inspected? Okay, so we want to get X by itself, so what do we need to do to both sides? Divide by that really small number, 0.0008 on both sides. Over here, it'll cross out to leave you with X, but what's 112 divided by 0.0008? 140,000. And then remember, they always have a unit because there's a word problem to go with it. How many smoke alarms were inspected? 140,000 alarms or smoke alarms or however you want to say it. Does it make sense that that number is that large? Yes, because to me 112 is pretty big, and it's not even 0.1%. It's a very, very small portion. So how does 112 compare to 140? It's a very, very small portion. How can we do this with a proportion? We have is over of equals percent over 100. I always do the percent because it's the easy part, right? And he's already as he needs to be, so we're going to leave him as 0.08. Of the total inspected, do we know the total inspected? No, and the of goes on the bottom, so that's our base. That's the big guy. That's the total amount of alarms. We do know the tiny amount, though. What was the tiny amount? 112. Okay? Cross multiply to get 0.08b, and then cross multiply, what's that going to give us? 11,200. And then we have to divide both sides by what? 0.08. You got it. Because we want this B by himself, so get rid of what's in front of the B. But if we do that to the left, we got to make sure we do it to the right. Do you guys get 140,000 alarms that way as well? We better, right? Done something wrong if not. And that's why, like, some of you guys are doing it both ways, so you're kind of double checking your work. So percent's always pretty easy. The is or of can get tricky, but notice of the total inspected, how many were totally inspected? We don't know that, so that's why it's unknown. So the other number they gave us is that amount. It is that part, okay, the 112. Are there any questions on B? All right, let's see if we can finagle C. So it's one day, 15 students were out sick with the flu. What percent of the students were absent if there should be a total of 80 students in the class, okay? So what do we know? I'm going to use an equation again. What is it asking for? What percent? So do we know the percent? No, so we have P. What percent of 80 students equals what? The 15, okay? Is everybody okay that, like, you're always taking the percent of the base, okay? So we had 80 total students, and a certain percent of that gives us that 15. I think this is kind of hard. I think the proportion one makes a little bit more sense here. So what do we need to do to get P by itself? Divide by 80. So P is going to be, what's 15 divided by 80? 0.1875. But remember, when you do it the equation way, what do you have to do to your percent still? Times it by 100 to get it back to that percent, okay? So times 100, P is really 18.75%. And 15 compared to 80, not quite a quarter, not quite a quarter, all right? Let's see if we can make it make a little bit more sense using the proportion. Blank over blank equals 100. What percent, we don't know, so I guess that's our unknown. And then you have to decide, is 15 or 80 the base or the whole? So remember, amount's always the small chunk. The B, the base, is always the whole. It's the total, right?
80.
So how many total students did you have? 80. So he's our base. And of those 80, what amount were sick? 15, okay? So remember, it's always like kind of that whole chunk. We're going to cross multiply to get 80P. And we're going to cross multiply to get 1,500. But when you divide both sides by 80, without having to do any more math, you should get 18.75%. Does that look right? So to me, this one makes a little bit more sense in the proportion way, because I know I had a total of 80. That was my base there. And a certain amount were sick, so that's why I knew 15 went on top. Here, there wasn't a really pretty sentence to start up that equation, so that's a little tricky. Are there any questions on the front page? Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about percent change. So like percent increase or percent decrease. So up at the top, write percent change equals new minus old all over old times 100. Percent change equals new minus old over old all over 100. And the reason why I say percent change, that might be a percent increase or it might be a percent decrease. But instead of giving you two formulas for that, I'll just give you one. If it's a negative answer, you know you decreased. If it's a positive answer, you know you increased. New meaning the new number, old meaning your original, okay? So what you're going to see is on all of these, I think it is. Notice it says the percent increase. Percent increase. That one's a little bit different. Percent decrease. Percent decrease. Percent decrease. So on all of those, you'll see percent decrease or percent increase. That hints to you to use this equation. Okay. So let's see if we can do it. It says find the percent of increase if the original amount was 80 and the new amount is 100. Okay. So the percent increase equals, I'm just going to follow this formula. New first, what's the new amount? I heard it, say it louder. 100, they said it, right? 100 minus the old amount, what's the old amount? 80, all over the old amount, which is 80. We're going to get that answer and we're going to multiply it by 100 so that we get a percent. Okay? So in your calculator, it's very important that you do order of operations. You need to do 100 minus 80 first, hit enter, and then divide by 80. Okay? So 100 minus 80, hit enter, and you should get 20, right? And so the question is, how does that 20 compare to your original of 80? It's a quarter. So it ends up being 0.25, but what do we have to do at the end? We have to multiply it by 100 to make it a percent. So did you guys get 25% there? And I know, like, to some of you it might not click, but to a lot of you, you kind of have some number sense. It just means if you went, I don't even know what this could be, but I went from like 80 students one semester to 100 students the next semester, I had a 25% increase because I increased by 20 students, but 20 compared to my original of 80 was a quarter. It's a 25% increase, kind of like a raise, okay? So let's look at B. Find the percent of increase if the original amount was 20 and the new amount is 65. Guys, we're just going to set it up the exact same way. So our percent increase is new. What was our new amount? 65 minus our original or old amount, 20, all over our original or old amount of 20. We can't forget to multiply by 100 once we do that. So again, make sure you do order of operations. Do 65 minus 20 first, hit enter, then divide by 20, and then don't forget to multiply by 100 to make it a percent. So do you guys get 225% there? Let's make that number make sense. Anything over 100% means more than 1, okay? So how does 20 compare to 65? 65 is almost 3 times 20, right? Or this difference of 15, or excuse me, I can't even do the math. This difference of 45 is more than 2 times 20, so it's more than 200%. So that's a really big increase to go from 20 to 65. So that's why it's more than 100%. C is kind of a random one thrown in there, guys. He's not a percent increase. It's just how much will a book cost if the original cost was $4.50. So let's see what's going on here. It says, recently a bookstore announced that all their books would increase by 5%. How much will a book cost if the original price was $4.50? So we're actually going to do, I'm going to do a proportion, okay? Blank equals blank over 100, because I don't want you to have to do backwards formula of this. What percent did it increase? 5. What was the original price? $4.50, so that's our base, okay? That little amount that it increased, we don't know it yet, so that's our A, okay? Go ahead and cross multiply. So you get 100A equals 450 times 5. What's 450 times 5? What was it? 22.5, like that. And if you divide both sides by 100, what do you get? 0.225. Okay. What does that mean? It means if the book was really $4.50, it had a 23% increase. Okay, we found the amount that it increased. So go ahead and put 23 cents. Is that okay? Because we found how much it increased. A bookstore announced that all their books would increase by 5%. So we found the amount of increase was 23%. But the question wasn't how much the increase was. The question was how much will the book cost now? So what do we need to do with that 23%? Or 23 cents? Add it, right? So we know the original amount was $4.50, and now they're increasing it by 23 cents. What's our total amount now? $4.73, is that right? So kind of pay attention to that, guys, because this is actually like a preference to 6.6. This is actually kind of what we're going to do in 6.6. We're going to find these increases, whether it's commission, tax, or just a salary increase. And then at the end, we'll have to add it or subtract it, depending on whether it's a discount or a promotion. All right. D through E and F are exactly like A and B, but now they're just asking for the percent decrease, okay? So percent decrease is found using the exact same formula, okay? So we're going to have new. Let's see what's going on. It says find the percent decrease if the original amount was 16 and the new amount is 10. So what's the new amount? 10 minus the original amount, which was 16, over the original amount, which was 16. And we're going to multiply by 100 and get what? Well, the difference between 10 and 16 is a negative 6, right? It dropped 6. But how does that 6 compare to 16? It's 0.375, right? But what do we still need to do? Multiply by 100. So you should get a negative 37.5%. So what does that mean? It means if you were trying to sell these books and originally a book was $16 and now you sold it for $10, you're dropping the price by 37.5%. It's a pretty good drop. Is everybody able to put that in their calculator and get it? Key thing is 10 minus 16, enter. Divide by 16, enter, times 100. So do it like in 3 steps. Subtract, divide, multiply in 3 different steps. Because if you don't, you're going to get 900% or something weird like that, okay? E, find the percent decrease if the original amount was 140 and the new amount is 91. So the percent decrease, new minus old, so what's our new? 91 minus our old of 140 divided by 140. We're going to get that number, and then we're going to multiply it by 100 to make it a percent. So how far is 91 over compared to 140? It's a difference of $49 or whatever we're talking about. But how does that $49 compare to the 140? It's a negative 35% drop. Is that what you guys got? Okay. Last one. On a recent shopping trip, a sign read jeans, originally $60, now $45. Find the percent decrease in price. So basically, what was the discount? Okay. So percent decrease, I'm going to use that same formula, new minus old over old. So what's the new price? They're now 45 minus the old price of 60. How does that $15 difference compare to the original price of 60? It's going to be 25% off. So you get negative 25%. Is that okay? So the one thing I want to point out with these 3, all 3 of them, the negative is not needed. I won't count it off because I kind of like to see the negative. But if they say the amount decreased, don't they already know it's going down? Yes. So if they say percent increase and you leave it positive, perfect. If they say percent decrease, you can leave it positive, because if I know it's decreasing, I know it's going down 37.5% and going down 35%. If they just say, what's the percent change, and they don't show you which direction it's going, that's when you need to keep the negative. So kind of keep that in mind. So if my math lab says, what's the percent decrease, don't worry about the negative, okay? You can just put 35% because they know it's decreasing by 35%.